Jessie Ann Nichols George, I love that long name, it's fantastic, is the author of 4 books which are founded on the principles of compassion and how to use it to bring joy to all areas of life, as well as to open to living your passion and manifesting a life of joy and fulfillment. What better way? Hello, Jessie. A warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Maureen. It's a pleasure to be here. It's very exciting to be on your show. I really appreciate this.
I love hearing your voice. You're such a lovely person, and I'm really happy that you said yes to coming on. Compassion is something that is close to my heart, and trying to always stay in that, living the life of compassion. And thank you for your. In fact, I wanted to ask you right away about that. I'm just happy that you're lovely, your voice and everything. But I wanted to ask you, just coming right out with it. Can you tell us, because you gifted me those books, so thank you so much, and the workbook. But can you tell us about why you wrote everybody? She's an author, of course. You can read about it, but activating compassion, and how the workbook, because that's an addition, which you sent me, thank you, how the workbook is used with that together, or you know what I mean? How beneficial.
Absolutely. So to fill people in a little bit, I've been doing a variety of different work, from psychic work, intuitive work, coaching work, all these different things for about 33 years now, actively working with clients. And so it's been quite a process. And I've developed into what I call being an integrated development specialist, which actually blends and utilizes about 50 different practices, belief systems, and sets of tools and things like that. So I kind of work in the moment with what people are telling me, and some people aren't used to that because they're used to, here's the very set format and this is what we do. And I'm kind of like, no, just talk to me like a person and we'll get your answers, and it works very well for me that way. But I've been doing this work for quite a while, and a few years ago I moved to southern Utah near Zion National Park to be closer to my mom in her later years. My dad had passed away, and I didn't want to miss having time with my mom, so I moved into that area. And there's not a lot of work where I live. And I've been kind of in and out of some of different things, trying different things along the way. And then I met this wonderful person in my life who's still in my life now. And he says, man, you've got all this wealth of information. I can't believe you haven't written any books. You need to write a book. And I'm like, no, books aren't my thing. It's like, you don't understand. Jessie doesn't spend her days indulged in books as much as I've enjoyed them in the past, or when I'm really trying to research something. And he's like, you got to get this information in books. And then I was working with clients online, and I started having all these clients about the same time going, we really love everything that you're telling us, but at the same time, we kind of need something when you're not around. We need something with this 24/7. I sure wish you'd write a book. And so I finally said, okay, I get it, universe. I get it, spirit. I can write a book. And then I thought, well, what am I going to write a book on? Which I think is what happens to a lot of people when they think, oh, let me follow my passion. And then it's kind of like, well, what is that? And so I had to sit down and think about, well, what's my message? If I could get a message out to the world, what would it be? And I couldn't quite come up with one clear answer. And again, I think that does happen to a lot of people when they're trying to step on their path. It's like, well, I've got 3 or 5 or 20 or 50 messages. And so I came back around and I started looking at my pet peeves. And my pet peeve was really about people who make judgments about people and they don't know anything about them. And having been somebody that was bullied quite a bit growing up, through school and things like that, and kind of being on that outcast and not being in the popular group, and it didn't, it's not that it's a bad thing, because it turned out to be a good thing for me, but not the bullying part, but being able to stand on my own. And so I brought it around. I thought, well, what's the opposite of judgment? And I thought, oh, it's compassion. And I realized that compassion is really at that core. And I thought, wow, this is a big thing. And it kind of led me down this path of realizing that really part of what my mission is to tackle these big concepts like compassion and bring that into everyday life for people. And so when I wrote these books, I sat down and wrote these books, and it was a perfect example of what happens when you get on your path. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know the end result or all of the details of what was going to happen. I just kind of started. And as I started, the work started to unfold itself, and it led me where to go. And as I wrote things, I thought so many times people put everything together in their books. And I wrote the main book to start with. And then as I started developing workshops and everything for it and seminars for it, I realized people really needed a workbook as well. And I thought, I want to keep the two of them separate so that people who want to get just the concepts can take just the concepts, and people who want to get the workbook and do the extra meditations and affirmations and things like that, they can get that in the workbook and go through more exercise-based processes. So they can, those that want to take it further than the concepts have that opportunity. And it also allowed me to keep my books a little bit more in the affordable range for people as well. So that's how it led up to it.
Well, I love how you articulate so lovely. And I want. In fact, it's like the book, The Artist's Way. It's a workbook, and so to me, because I haven't had time to enjoy everything, or get through everything that both books, lovely gifts you sent me, but I like the workbook situation because it helps you. Well, I guess I'll ask you this: can compassion be learned, or be mindful through exercise, and be mindful of living in compassion? Is that the truth? Is that a fact? Truth? A truth?
Through like physical exercise?
No, like through your workbook, for instance. That workbook would be an interactive
like doing
thing.
the exercises to it.
Exactly.
And
yeah,
compassion is really all about that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's even when we look at the conceptual part, but the exercises take it to the next level. So, for example, in the workbook, one of the things I do is actually take people through how to break down and clear out judgments that they have. And judgments is the big block to compassion. And judgment's based in fear, it's based in pain. Those are really kind of the two core things. If we're hurting, there's usually a reason we're hurting. It usually comes back to fear. and our judgments come out of fear. It comes out of, oh my gosh, what if I was like that? Or it comes out of this misunderstanding or not willing to take the steps to understand more. And we make judgments in all kinds of small little statements every day. We look at somebody and we think, oh my gosh, that person's really heavy, and all they must just sit around on the couch all day not eating anything but junk food and pizzas and potato chips and not take care of themselves. And we don't stop to think somebody might actually have a physical issue going on, or we don't stop to think when we see that person that maybe they just lost 200 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, go on. I'm sorry to interrupt
oh
you.
no, that's okay. And,
carry on.
and
Carry on, Jesse.
so we have those judgments all throughout. And we also make judgments about ourselves, like I'm not good enough to do that. I would never be able to, go rappelling down a 200-foot canyon wall. And so in the workbook, for example, I would take something like that and say, well, why can't you? Well, somebody might come back and say, well, because, I'm 55 years old and people that are in that age range don't do that. Well, why don't they? What kind of people do you mean? So we start asking questions, and through this questioning process, we can actually break those judgments down. And then usually what we're going to find that either we run out of excuses, because the judgments are based on excuses that we're making too. And we're either going to run out of excuses, or we're going to find out it's something that we don't really want to do.
Right. You were speaking, I just want to go back for a minute. I lived in Salt Lake City for a while, and I have sisters who lived there 40 years, but I spent a lot of time in Zion, over at Zion. I love that area. So when you were bringing up that, to me, when you were talking about your mother, because your father had, your mother was around, your father had passed away. And because of I can identify with that extremely much, because unconditionally I chose to be there versus my parents later on. And I felt that is really a direct reflection of pure compassion.
It really is. And this is one of those things where it can be a very fine line for people, because sometimes in a situation like that, they can feel very imposed on, like, well, why should I have to give up my whole life, and why this and why that? And, this really isn't my problem to handle, for example. And that's one of the chapters that I actually have. It's titled "Not My Problem."
Mm. I haven't
Because we
gotten to
look
that
at
one yet, but I will because
and I think it's one of those things where that's where you start looking at the bigger picture. The
Mhm.
problem might not be yours, but how you respond to it is your issue.
Yes.
And looking at it saying, is my need to stay over here really as important as sharing this time?
Yes.
And I realized that there was nothing more important. And of course, I'm very blessed to have the mother that I have, and my sister lives with her, so I don't have all of the responsibilities there. Um, but I'm very blessed to be around. And I didn't really get to say goodbye to my dad because he went downhill very quickly, and he actually passed before I could get up. I had plans to come and see him, and then before I could get there, he passed. But when we look at these things, it is stepping back and saying, well, what really is important?
Mhm.
Is it important for me to stay in a big city where I can party and go out and drink and have fun? Or is it important that I share the last few years of my mother's life with her?
Yeah. I call that pure and authentic. For me, anyway, I felt I wasn't it was difficult. There's no doubt about it. But
Yeah.
it was, I was blessed. And when I look at the overall picture as being blessed, and I knew then compassion, people talk about, oh, I'm a compassionate person, but then out of 6 kids, I'd look at them, you're not,
Well,
but, you
and
know,
you're right about that, because for me, there were just a lot of different things that were coming together that were saying go there. And I probably would not have written these books had I not moved to be closer to her,
yeah.
because I had no idea what was going to unfold on my path. I moved into this little town that Walmart's your main employer.
Yeah, it's beautiful there, though. Everybody design. Oh, it's a
It
beautiful
is.
area.
It's a
Beautiful.
beautiful area. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong. There's
yeah.
wonderful hiking and wonderful outdoor activity and things like that. But there's the job market sucks.
No, you put that aside is what you did to go, but look what came out of it.
But look at
Obviously,
what came out of it. And I had no idea when I took this journey. And the ironic thing is that when I moved there and I'd put everything in a moving truck, my sister helped me move everything. I got everything. I started unpacking it when I got there, to find out that everything I owned was infected with deadly mold.
oh,
So everything,
that's symbolic.
literally, my entire life, my diplomas, right down to the clothes on my back, went into the dumpster when I moved there. And I thought, what have I done? What have I moved into? Oh my
Oh,
gosh. But if I
and
had never moved there, I can't say that I would have written the books or taken this journey. And I'm so very grateful for that.
I love hearing that because I get chills because I feel the same. When I just wanted to go back to that because I felt something really connection with that, and as well as what I did. You think you think you don't need it all, or you are the things you need the most, and that was there. You have it. What happened in the books, and now you're here
And
and
now
going
I'm
to
here.
help
I'm
us
on your
all
show.
understand. Yeah, on a show, and you're going to really. So that's why this show. I pick shows that are meaning very personal to me, and that I'm very not only compassionate about and passionate about, but that I really identify with. And I agree with you with what the compassion thing is an easy word, but it's not until you truly are living in compassion, and especially when you're with people that are older, and how some people don't want to be bothered. It's too much, or their lives are, don't want to be disrupted. It's too inconvenient. But it gave me a lot more, like you're saying for yourself as well. I love that. You're lovely. And so going back to back, I didn't want to get all, but
You didn't want
that's
to
how
get
I
all
am. Just
sentimental and
well, and all heartfelt, okay. But I thought you could understand where that was coming from. So I applaud you, and
definitely.
I'm glad that that's why we're here now. So, uh, And the judgment part, absolutely. And like I said, I've been really, I've been going, reading through, and I've gotten to everything. And I love how you talk about, you can ask the universe. It's in the workbook, I believe. I saw it in. Say, call to the universe to help you. Oh, how is it? I have it somewhere. Okay, well, Jesse, I'll get back to it.
I
About
channel when I write, so don't ask me 10 minutes later
no,
what I
I
wrote.
like that. That's a
Just kidding.
true. That's a no, no, no. I do readings. I don't remember the next thing, but about how we can create affirmations by asking, um,
Questions.
yeah, the universe, so to help, oh, whatever, help us. How do you
They
put it?
they want the universe wants to answer our questions.
Mm-hmm.
So part of how we can get past some of those blocks and challenges is to ask uh, questions um, that are about what we want. So instead of saying things like, "Why can't I ever get ahead in life?" Because when we ask, "Why can't I ever get ahead in life?" the universe is going to show you why you can't. It's going
Right.
to put more blocks in your way. But when we turn around and we say, I wonder what it would be like to have an abundance of money flowing into my life so that I could share things with other people and provide these amazing experiences for them. And the universe is going to answer, well, here's what it's like to have an abundance of money. Here, try this, $5,000 or $20,000 or things like that. So it's always answering our questions with things. So we want to be careful of some of those questions that we're asking in that process with it. So yeah, the questions are
Well,
definitely there.
like I like I was in the workbook. I was just acknowledge where there is pain in your life, and also about asking ask the universe questions as to what you want, and does it already exist in your life as well.
Yeah.
So, and people
So
need to be
we're wanting
mindful. It comes down to this.
it's yeah. The questions of asking it as if it's already present, and that's a key factor because so many times we're asking for something in the future as if we don't have it. And
Hmm.
we think, but Jesse, I don't have $250,000 sitting in my bank account. But the energy is there, the the whole aspects are there. So we want to ask as if we have it. If we ask as if we do not have it, then we're asking from a space of deprivation. And that's when, again, we're going to get that negative response back. We're going to get that deprivation back because we're asking for deprivation in a sense. It's kind of an ironic way. So, asking those questions of saying, for example, why am I always getting people show up in my life helping me and giving me gifts? That's present. And the universe is going to answer it and say, this is why you are. So that why am I always getting benefits? So there's parts of the mind and how it buys into these questions. If the mind can't buy into it and take ownership of it in a sense and believe it, then what we've done is we've created contradiction. We've actually created a judgment. And so that
Right.
judgment comes from linking two things together. For example, if I'm rich, I'm going to become a rude snob that doesn't care about anybody.
Hmm.
So when you have a judgment, for example, like that around money, you can't draw money in. The same thing happens with these questions. So the universe, what it realizes is our mind gets on board and it realizes, yes, I truly am blessed. Yes, I truly do have beauty. I don't always get to see it, or maybe I don't always recognize it, but it is always there. My life
Yes.
truly is amazing.
I like how I was reading about, and you were getting to the part about not my problem, I think, but perception changing questions you have I loved it. It's like the questions and I'm looking at this, This source is from everybody. This source is from Jesse. It's not what my words are. I have to say that. But when you say, "Why is my life filled with compassion?" It's a good question. Why is compassion overflowing from me and within me and comes to me from others all the time? And why is compassion providing me? It's like, or why do I transform all judgment into compassion? I feel that that is really the root, and the perception changing questions are really important.
Right. Because that's exactly what I'm talking about, Maureen, is it's changing our perception. So it's changing it from the perception that it's not accessible or we don't have it to this is accessible. We do have it already in our life. And as we acknowledge that we have it, and we do, and part of the reason we have it is because we are one with the divine. We have that connection with divine source. We are part of the divine source. And by the mere fact that we are one and part of the divine source, we're omnipotent. So it's there. We might not choose to see it. we might not be grounding it into our physical world. But when we ask why we are this way, because we are that way, then the universe can ground it out and show it in front of us on that human level.
Very well said. I like that. I reflecting back, talking about having compassion for oneself. I know for me anyway, that's been my. Well, I'm very honest about my issues. Everybody can hear me roar. I lack compassion within myself, but I truly have much compassion for others. I mean, it's not something I'm pretending or I fake or forcing. I have so much compassion for others, but for myself, and I'm in some ways, I guess I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, or not, aren't I?
It's very ironic. The people that do that very thing, and it's easy to do because what happens is we have giving natures and we have receiving natures, but we need to have both of those pieces in order to bring them to a true fulfillment or out to their true potential. And so we wonder sometimes, well, that person seems so greedy. They take and they use these things for all these selfish things and so on and so forth. And why do they keep receiving when they're not necessarily doing good things with it? Because they're really good at receiving. Just like there's people that are really good at giving, and you think, well, here's this person that gives and gives and gives, and they're not getting anything.
Right.
Well,
Yes.
part of it is because they're not used to receiving. And this happens with a lot of givers. They don't know how to receive. Somebody gives them something, and they say, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, you didn't need to do that. And they discount the gift.
Yes,
And we
you're
don't
right.
want to discount that gift. We want to learn how to accept that gift and go, this is wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
And respect the person that's doing this, because that's the thing. Jesse, do you feel, for instance, because I just shared with you something about myself, you're right about that, because I'd rather be
the greatest
giving.
gift, by the way, is allowing somebody to give to you.
Yes, I agree, and I've been working on that in counseling for 40 years. Because I go, oh, you shouldn't have, I don't, really, and because that's how my dynamic is and whatever my issues, dysfunction, but it's a nice dysfunction. But no, it's not nice myself. I need to, I always look at it this way. If I look at the person, I don't respect them by allowing them to want to give me something. If I say, oh, you didn't have to do that, I need to respect that they wanted to, and it's simple, really. But for people that maybe, for me, I lack compassion with myself big time, and it's not because I play I'm just being really honest. But if I was able to, and I truly, like I said, I have compassion for, gosh, especially for what with my parents, and my father died, pretty soon, 2 years ago, his anniversary, and I was very close to him. And the thing of it is, I had such compassion for what was going on, and it was difficult, but I truly was living in that moment of living in compassion for them. It made me feel good too, of course. I was getting something there. But the thing of it is, within myself, would you say somebody, I mean, in addition to having for others, it would be ideal to be able to blend it into having it for yourself, correct? I mean, it would make.
Absolutely.
And how can you do that? I mean,
Well,
I mean, there's tools I know. Like I said, I
mhm.
know what my issue is.
Well,
I
first of
maybe.
all,
Hmm.
when we don't give to ourselves, what we're
Yeah.
doing is we're becoming a martyr, which then
Right.
becomes a very selfish thing, and it becomes
Exactly.
an ego-based thing. So
Yep.
we're really at that point then no longer genuinely giving
That's right. That's
because we're
very.
on a
I
martyr
agree with you.
space.
I'll cop to
And
that.
how would you feel? How would you feel if you were giving me something and I said, "Oh, no thanks,
I would
no
feel hurt or
thanks,
not needed or. Yeah.
no thanks." Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's what happens every time we're not willing to receive. And
Right.
again, when we allow somebody to give, that gift is so incredibly powerful for people because what happens is they get to connect with divine spirit in that moment that they're giving. Now, I'm not talking about giving because somebody's trying to manipulate you into
Yeah.
something. I'm
There's a
talking
different.
about somebody who genuinely gives. Somebody comes over and says, "Hey, I would love to come over and pull the weeds out of your yard for the next 2 weeks. Do you mind?"
Right.
Well,
Where there's no hidden agenda manipulation where they can come back. Well, I
yeah,
did this for you, and yeah.
exactly. And say, "I would love that." And so we need to learn that receiving part. And one of the big keys, and you were talking about, I have a hard time giving to myself. So we want to think about, because we do want to give that gift to people of being able to give and give them that experience because there's so much tremendous joy that fills the heart and it makes the heart chakra so expansive. And when the heart chakra gets really, really expansive, the heart chakra is a bridge between heaven and earth. So all of those beautiful spiritual things can manifest on the earthly plane. It opens the bridge for us. And so everything connects and everything comes into flow. And what greater gift could you give somebody than to connect with pure divine spirit and that creative energy? And so by giving to ourselves, the other thing that we're doing is we're keeping ourselves constantly replenished. The more we give to ourselves, the more others will want to give to us. And we need to receive because the more we allow ourselves to receive, the more we have to give. So think
Right.
about it. If you don't have
Right.
$100 in the bank, how are you going to donate $1,000 to the charity?
Right.
You can't do it.
Right.
But if you allow yourself to receive $100,000, you can easily give away that 10,000.
No, I understand. That's good. I like. I mean, I love how you and like I said, I'm very open to all my stuff, and I know I wish I could be in denial about some of these things. So I'm upfront, even on all the shows I've done. Everybody knows my business, but I agree. I agree with that because I like how yeah, you explain that. That's a perfect example. It's always like you said something with there's no hidden agenda. So and there's been times I'm sure you can say that people will say they're compassionate because of your situation. They want to help you, but then they come back and they they tend to pass judgment then on you. Uh, well,
Yes.
do you follow me on that? What I mean? So you
Yes.
get shied away. So it's
Hmm.
basically really because we are all connected. I love how you say we need to be we'll feel more connected with others, but we need to also be aware of. I always think we're colored by our environment, the people that we're around, and who we choose to be around, and everything else. So, well, what do you do, Jesse? Have you ever, become passionate also should be unconditional
Hmm.
and so
Hmm.
if somebody is or if anybody's experienced that they felt somebody was truly giving acting in a way of compassion to find out later they were next I'm giving it a silly example but metaphor was whatever you want to call it a lie that then somebody's turning around and making fun of you because you're low light whatever you know what I mean and you got wind of this it would really feel betrayed so it would shy
Right.
you away from um, being able to be open to having someone be giving to you. Is there something that
You,
you could
you
do,
bring
or
up a
just
good point because there are so many abusive relationships out there, and we see that manipulation factor a lot of times in personal relationships, marriages, things like that. Matter of fact, I talk about a lot of that in my new set of books, You, Me, Life, Dreams, which I just put out on the full moon 2 weeks ago.
Oh.
And so it's available on Amazon, by the way, for people that want to check that out as well. But relationships are a key factor because people do a lot of manipulation in relationships. A lot of it's unintentional. I'll give them credit for that. However, there is a lot of manipulation going on. Like women are very good. The feminine energy is very good at manipulating.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
oh, let me do this for you. Let me do that. And, what they're really looking for is tell me that you love me.
Right.
And so there's these hidden agendas. Well, it's no wonder that men start to shut up because it's like, oh God, what does she want now? What's the hidden agenda there? What am I going to get nailed with? Or we see it too with men who try to buy women off. It's a power struggle. When we are giving with an intention of wanting something back from that manipulation space, it's really about trying to gain control over people.
Yes.
It's really a form of abuse, which people don't realize. They don't classify it. We don't talk about it that way, but by law it is actually.
And
in
it's
most states.
it runs rapid in families as well.
Yes, it does, where we have a lot of these control issues going on and things like that. Now, I will mention too, and I think a lot of people get overwhelmed by this when they think of a topic that's really big as compassion, because I sat there and I know when I first thought about compassion, and I would think, well, man, we think of that term and we think about, the monks and people in Tibet sitting on a mountaintop meditating 12 hours out of the day. And, that's what we think of compassion people. We think of the traditional roles of service when we think of compassion, priests and ministers, and we think, oh, that's not my role. I don't want to go into that step there. But compassion comes from the smallest of gestures, and that's part of what I've really strived to bring out in my books, Maureen, is that it doesn't have to be this big meditate for 8 or 9 hours a day, which is, that thought of that is overwhelming to most people. Mm-hmm. It's the things that we put in our everyday life. It's the things like smiling at somebody, holding a door open for somebody, going and giving somebody a helping hand to get something into their house from their vehicle. These small little gestures are the things that really change lives.
Yes, we're going to I want to stop at that point for a moment. We're going to take a short commercial break from our sponsor, PsychicAccess.com, and we'll be right back. This is a good time to take the break so we can come back to that, Jessie.
Awesome.
So one moment, everybody. We'll be back.
A new era in psychic services has begun. PsychicAccess.com. You can connect with our psychic advisors by telephone or chat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All of our psychic advisors are interviewed, fully verified, and accuracy tested, assuring you quality service. We're living in some very troubled times right now. More and more, the world's problems are affecting us on a personal level. You don't have to deal with this alone. Our highly accurate psychics, caring advisors, and talented mediums can help with situations you are currently experiencing and can let you know what the future may hold for you. All new customers get a free 6-minute reading. All you have to do is register. Why not visit us now and get a free reading at PsychicAccess.com.
Okay, we're back with Jessie, and I didn't say your full name, but Jessie, and we just stopped at about the simple things, the little things, and I so much, and I don't know, sometimes it's a self, like I said, I like to feel needed. And that's part of maybe sometimes how I define myself, and that is maybe selfish in some way, but I do like to feel needed. But I also enjoy. And I elder people especially. I love elderly people, of course, or I guess I'm elderly at this point. But
I think I'm getting there, but I don't feel like it.
No, I know. Well, it's changed now for our generation, but I think that I so enjoy, when I see somebody that, well, even if somebody doesn't look like they need it, I just feel good, and it makes me feel good when they give me a look. It doesn't have to be any words, just a look, and I feel like good inside myself. And I think this is what it's all about: feeling a sense of a sense of being authentic, a sense of being full of joy,
And
and
what's really interesting when you talk about that is it triggers an aspect of what I talk about as well in the books, which is an aspect of it's simply about doing the gesture. It's not about whether somebody accepts it or doesn't accept it. That's their choice. It may not be the right thing or the right time. It's not about us forcing them to take something. I mean, you certainly, for example, wouldn't want to force somebody to, take and eat cashews if they're allergic to nuts.
yeah,
Okay. So it's about making the offer, but not being upset if they don't take it for some reason, because there could be a whole realm
exactly.
of reasons there why they're not accepting something. And sometimes they're not sure that they can trust you. They may have had a lot of bad experiences along the way, and they don't know whether you genuinely are offering that and
That's right.
really mean it without having any ulterior motives going on.
No,
uh,
exactly what I brought up earlier,
yes.
and also people that I feel that if you're living in a life, if you're living in compassion or mindful of compassion every day, or in the just in your mind, in the thought, and putting it out there, that others will also, by you will gain something with that, and receive maybe something like I said, it can be learned, it can be activated, right? So of
Yep.
course, so that could activate compassion within them as well, correct?
Absolutely. And the thing is that we have this within all of us. And again, it can come from the smallest of gestures. A smile can change somebody's day. Literally. Somebody might be having a really hard day and you open a door for them and it
Mm-hmm.
changes their whole demeanor. Like, oh my gosh, somebody was just nice to me. And then they go and they're nice to somebody else and so on, and it cascades. I think part of it is so many times too with compassion is that, again, some people need that repetition before they feel comfortable with it, because they may have come from all different kinds of situations where it wasn't acceptable or they couldn't trust people or whatever the case is. But we oftentimes don't get to see the bigger picture. We oftentimes don't get to see the whole cascading results of our actions, which is why we need to simply take the actions and not
Mm.
worry about seeing it all, or not worry about it, because it's going to come back to us no matter what. But I'm going to give you an
Mm.
example that I use in my books, and that is how a life could literally be saved by a simple 30-second gesture. Somebody's running late getting out of the office. She's supposed to go meet her husband for a business dinner. They're going to meet a client. He's meeting a client for dinner, and she needs to be there with him. And somebody stops, holds the elevator for her. She manages to get in the elevator. As a result of those few seconds of catching that elevator, she manages to get through town fine, get to the restaurant, make it there on time. As a result of her being on time, everything flows very smoothly for the dinner. The client accepts the deal in over the dinner. As a result of the deal going well, the person making the deal was very, very happy. So the server gets tipped an extra particularly good tip because they gave great service and it helped in getting this deal. And as a result of that extra big tip, the server was able to pay a bill she didn't know she was going to be able to pay. As a result of this deal going through, several jobs were created as a result of it. One of the people that got one of those jobs is somebody that had been out of work for 6 months and was on the edge of being evicted from their home. As a result of the stress of not being able to make payments for several months and being on the edge of being evicted for so long, their spouse was severely ill from that stress and was pushing, tremendous life jeopardizing illness at that point. So as a result of them getting that job, that illness could now be cleared. So literally, an aspect of holding an elevator door saved a life. Now, we don't get to see that whole process, but these things are happening all the time.
That just like fuses right into that synchronicity stuff too. Yes. That's lovely. I like that's lovely. That's a
Yes.
great, and that's in your book. I haven't gotten to that part, but I'm really enjoying what I have yet been reading. Can you tell anybody? What can you say to people that, for some people, it's kind of like in some of the ways forgiveness. In some ways, people say, well, if I have compassion for that person, who's to say they'll have compassion for me? And the way I'm seeing it, what we've spoken about here, we shouldn't be the little things that we do, like you said, it shouldn't be for the reason of wanting to get them to respond or react, or even for any reason other than just wanting to be doing. Without getting any praise.
Keeping that concept in mind that, again, we should just be offering it and not judging who's worthy of it or who isn't worthy of it. Everybody's worthy of compassion. And you might have had somebody who was a bully in high school or junior high or wherever, but that person is not necessarily that same person 20 or 30 years later. We all shift and we all change. And yes, there might be some core things, but maybe that bully learned that they had some really valuable skills there of management or leadership, and they took it and, used it to go open a Habitat for Humanity store, and now they're building homes for people who can't afford them. I don't know.
That's true. Those are synchronicities. Or for somebody that you don't know what their story is at home, that there's something very sad going on for their lives at home, so they behave in a way that isn't seemingly kind or compassionate towards others. And I do try to look at things like that myself when I'm angry about maybe some situation, but then I go, you know what? I must say, I have compassion for that person, even if they're mean or they're, unkind to me.
Well, and that's the key, because, again, looking at it, when people are coming from these spaces of being angry, they're feeling hurt, they're feeling pain, they're feeling fear. And those things bring our vibrations down, and they pull us into those negative spaces. Their self-worth is lost. This whole cascading set of events will transpire as a result of that. And again, maybe that person never knew love from anybody, so they don't really know any different. Their programming's there, and it's not about making excuses for them, but everybody deserves this. Everybody deserves to know what it's like to be loved. Everybody, and that doesn't mean that you're going to change everybody, or that everybody's going to change just because you were nice to them for a few days, or you may or may not have been the right person to create the bigger change, but somewhere you showed them something different. You gave them a different example. You showed them that not everybody is mean, and it's not up to us to, again, judge whether somebody is worthy or not, or to even have to know the whole details of why they are the way they are. People say to me, I say, I genuinely have love for everybody, everybody. And they say, oh, well, you don't really have love for everybody. I say, yes, I do. And they say, well, you can't love that, mass murderer, or those, people out there that are blowing people up and things like that. And the key is that too many times, again, we judge somebody by actions that we're taking. We meld them together, just like categorizing people and saying, well, all of the rich are a bunch of snobs and they don't care about anybody else. Well, it's not true. We try to make things true that aren't true, because there's a lot of rich people out there doing amazing things in this world that are very kind and very generous. And so that person that's doing those negative things, what we need to be doing is separating the act from the person. Right. I agree. It's the act that we don't like. It's the fact that It's the act of blowing people up that we don't like. It's not the person.
Right, exactly. It's or the acting out in the behavior or whatever. And I went to my daughter is leaving for Thailand pretty soon, and she's in neuroscience. She's graduated from college university, and she's going to be studying mindfulness with her neuroscience and whatever. And
Nice.
I went to a conference, and my older sister's a therapist, and it was on compassion. It was here in San Diego not too long ago, and they asked everybody, "What can you say one word when you think of compassion?" And what I thought immediately was love.
Mm.
That to me, just what I got was love, and compassion is a word. Perhaps that is just true, but compassion to me is love, and how you said, well, you have, you said I have, you love, you said you love, how did you just said it yourself, really.
It's an unconditional love, is what it is.
Yes.
I mean, it's the person, not the action. And we don't know, again, all of the circumstances that led that person to be who they are, taking those actions. And none of us can say with absolute certainty that if we were lived every minute exactly the way that person lived, that we wouldn't have made the same choices for whatever reason.
Jesse, we don't have much time left, and I wanted to ask you if there's anything that you could let us know what you're doing. I know that. Thank you. You're so sweet. Everybody, Jesse's out of town, right? And, yeah, you are.
I am. I'm sitting here. I got to watch this beautiful fall foliage driving in. I'm actually this weekend at the Matriarch Gathering in Chimney Rock, Colorado, which is a little bit east of Durango. I got to get my directions straight.
I lived in Durango for a year, of all things. Yeah. I know where you are. Yes.
So and I know San Diego well. My sister used to live there. She went to San Diego State, so I spent a lot of time in that area as well. But so I'm out here actually presenting on compassion this weekend, which is very exciting to me. I will be doing a 2014 compassion tour, which is a blend of workshops, book signings, seminars, retreats, fundraising events. Right now, I know that that's going to be starting at least in March, because I will be doing a taping for a show for Bridging Heaven and Earth in the Santa Barbara area. And that is open to people who, if they want to come and watch it being taped, they're welcome to do that. They can simply contact me by email, and they're welcome to come in and watch the taping of it. And I always have things going on. I've got online courses going on. I've, of course, got my own radio show going on every week, too. I've got videos that I put out every month that are on my website. People can go check that out on my website, Jessie Ann Nichols George 1. That's the number 1.com. And there's tons of great information there. I've got the 2 books on relationships that just came out, and the 2 books on compassion. And I was actually going to offer a special to your listeners that they can take advantage of for a week. I might extend it for 2 weeks. But what I was going to do is, for people who want to grab copies of the paperback, I will do them for your listeners at $4.99 each, and they're regularly $12.99. And the ebook versions I will do at $1.99 for them, and they're regular $9.99. They just need to email me, and my email is Jessie at Jessie Ann Nichols George, and let me know whether they're looking for the ebook versions or the paperback versions, and I'll get them the promotional codes to use for that.
Well, that's so lovely. That's so giving. There you go.
And it's a great gift to give somebody. So,
Absolutely.
With the holidays coming up.
It is, and also to give to yourself,
and to give to yourself.
That's really lovely. Thank you. That is very lovely. I didn't know everybody. Jesse's good. That's lovely. Very lovely. Thank you. And I suggest to anybody, that's listening here and in the chat room, I would certainly take that lovely gift that she's offering That's great. I really enjoyed you, and Santa Barbara. Well, I'll email you and find out where you're going to be because I drive up. I'm in San Diego. That's a nice drive to Santa Barbara. I'd love to meet you in person as
And there
well.
will be book signings around that time frame too. I know that I'll be coordinating a book signing in Solvang, California, around that
Oh,
same
I
time as
love
well.
solving. Yeah,
Yeah.
love. Good for
And if
you.
enough people
Get
contact me, who knows? Maybe I'll even set up a workshop too.
Yeah, I'm really happy. Well, we have, on the website, everybody, our website is listed on her guest page as well, and your books. If they can, what everybody knows. And this show is archived. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really enjoyed you, and I appreciate your work and your compassion, and everything else. And I wish you really a great day tomorrow. Your event for
Yeah.
speaking starts. So I really wish you well. You don't need wish I wish you all goodness, all
I'm
goodness in
so
life.
excited about being here. I really am, and being on your show, and I greatly appreciate it, Maureen. It's absolutely lovely to be able to connect with you and your listeners and everybody here. And I just love doing this. As you can probably tell,
Yeah,
I just love connecting with people and sharing this work with them.
and that's a truly authentic person for sure. Well, Jesse, have a great evening, and thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Okay, good night.
Good night, Maureen.
Hello, my name is Res Miranda. If you're having relationship, career, or life issues, I'm inviting you to experience what it's like to have access to professional, highly accurate psychics and spiritual advisors you can trust to care and help you. Register now to get your free 6-minute reading by telephone or chat. Get answers, get access, psychic access, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. PsychicAccess.com.